Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered? This is a secret. That's why I'm whispering. Have you ever wondered the secret formula to unleash your pure potential daily? Well, we've got it. We know it. Well, we don't know it, but our guest does. So he's going to share. Now, buckle up as we wake up the inner giant. Boom. Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, co-host and creator of 12 Journey, co-creator of 12 Journeys Coaching, a tribe of giants, Wake Up with Giants TV, and a whole bunch of other cool crap that we've
Just
done.
a few things, right?
A bunch of cool crap that we've done. And I'm here with Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls, who started this whole thing. It's his fault, so blame him.
Look at what you started,
Look
man.
at what you started, dude.
Oh,
It's
geez.
awesome. We have
And I think we're just getting going.
I think so. And we've got a lot of great things that are going on currently. Nick, in like, I don't know, 25 minutes or something, made this whole My 12 Journeys. Is it my12journeys.com?
My12journeys.com. Yep.
Yeah, this is an entire community. It's a subscription base. It's $10 a month, but you get access to all of our content, exclusive content, Stretch Revolution, all the chat features and community like Facebook. I'm sure there's other great things and every other great thing that could be
Well,
on a site.
we have over 600 videos uploaded on our YouTube channel. So what I've done is broken this down by categories. So it makes it easy to search. So by topic, you can go in here if you're struggling with authenticity or brokenness, you can go in and find videos on all of these topics in here. And I'm just finishing loading up this whole program. But it's really a way to get exclusive content outside of the Tribe of Giants, because that's our free community. Wake Up with Giants, we broadcast into there. But this is a way for you to really dive even deeper and have that same community feel. And it's only $10 a month. So it's ridiculous. That's 33 cents a day. Like for 33 cents a day, you could have therapy just coming into this. Okay,
How much is it
technically
a
not
minute
therapy,
and per
but close
second?
enough.
We need to break it down even
It's
further.
like 0.0, yeah, 0.02 cents a second, right? I don't know. I
It's
just
awesome.
made that up. It sounded really good, though.
I would give you that. Well, and you can go to 12journeyscoaching.com. You can also still go to the website, giantsandsmalls.com, take the giant quiz. But we'll be dumping a whole lot more content into that section. And so stay tuned.
Except for Chris, he gone.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a cabin. He's living his best life, a really rough life in a cabin this weekend. But and now we won't ever know the secret. Oh crap! Now he's back. Okay, well now we know the secret. Or maybe you'll never know, and we'll find out. Who knows? But we need to introduce our guests so we can find out the secret. Nick,
so here we go. You ready?
I think so.
I'd be happy to. So today we're thrilled to introduce Chris Smith. He's the founder of PSBLTY Co. Possibility Co. So Chris is a man who transcends traditional accolades and achievements, choosing instead to define himself through his daily choices and unwavering commitment to awakening people to their fullest potential. Born into a pioneering Arizona family, Chris's early life as a cowboy amidst storytellers instilled in him a deep appreciation for wisdom beyond the written word. His journey through various locations led him to a profound realization. His true calling was not in pursuing a single path, but in empowering others to find their own. Through the Possibility Co., Chris and his team ignite transformation in entrepreneurs, brands, and teams, helping them uncover their identity, foster leadership, and achieve sustainable growth that resonates with their true essence. So join us as we explore Chris's unique approach to life and leadership and uncover the secrets to living a giant life. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you. I'm stoked to be here. I love the message of awakening the giant within, and helping people tap into their potential. So I'm really stoked to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you, man. I would imagine there was an awakening point in your life. We like to go through our framework, the 12 journeys, as kind of a foundation, because we see it weaves through everything. And so I look at first that non-consciousness, right? Who we think we are, what we were programmed to be, what our parents taught us to be, culture, society. And truly our brains have this ability to adapt to any environment within a short period and assimilate it. And so we go about thinking we are something. And then there's an awakening moment that says, yeah, you're not really that. There's more in you. Did you have something like that?
Yeah, for sure. I've had a few of them. I think the most profound for me was, 14 years ago, my wife and I, we had two beautiful little boys at the time, 18-month-old and a newborn, and found ourselves separated. And we're working out how we were going to get divorced. So we were in a really, we weren't like separated. Oh, we're just taking a little break and going to come back together. We were separated and, working out how we would split up, assets and divide up time with our boys. And I was at the lowest point in my life, felt like a failure as a husband, as a father, as an entrepreneur. I was broke mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. And had really kind of given up hope on the marriage, but my wife wouldn't. Like, to her credit, she was really a leader and kept trying to enroll me into, the vision of what could be possible in our marriage. But I wasn't open to it. And we went to a marriage counselor, and he was amazing. And we'd been to other marriage counselors before, but this particular marriage counselor was just really, really different. And he spoke possibility into us in a way that helped me see things that were possible that I had never seen before. And in those interactions with him, I had probably the most profound realization I've ever had in my life, which is, I had this realization, like, you are the author of your story.
Mm.
And although maybe that sounds so simple that wouldn't be that profound, it was really profound for me, because what it meant was two things. One, it was incredibly humbling, because if I'm the author of my story and if my life doesn't work,
whose responsibility or whose fault is that, right?
Humbling to, like, it was the first time in my life I took 100% responsibility for my life, like, consciously.
Oh.
Like, I'm responsible for everything in my life, the good, the bad, the stuff that works, the stuff that isn't working. But then the hopeful part of that was, but if I'm the author, then that also means I could do something about it. Like, the page is blank. That had never occurred to me. And then this question that came to me, that's kind of become my mantra or my purpose, is, but do you have the courage to pick up the pen? So pick up the pen became kind of this mantra for me of, like, it's awesome to realize you're the author of your story. It's inspiring to realize the page is blank. But if you're not willing to pick up the pen and do something about it.
That's a thought right there. That putting ink to paper metaphorically in your life, right? To really do that. That does take a lot of courage, even when possibility is present.
Totally. And so, I mean, literally 14 years ago, I literally and figuratively picked up a pen and started writing a new story for, like, okay, here's the kind of marriage I'm going to have. Here's the kind of father I'm going to be. Here's the kind of business. Fast forward now, 14 years later, that same woman who I was going to divorce is my best friend and my hero. We added 3 more children. We have 5 kids. I've got a business that I can't believe I get paid to do in the world. And I just feel like I'm living a really blessed life, from a place of hopelessness. And it all started with just people willing to speak possibility into me, willing to be bold leaders, and, like, picking up the pen and literally creating the life I wanted.
Let's hang here for a minute on the idea of people speaking possibility into your company, PSBLTY Co. Right? Did I do that right? I think I did it all right.
Possibility Co. Yeah.
Possibility Co. Is seeing that there is possibility always around us, but we don't always see it. I love Byron Katie's quote. It says you were suffering in paradise. And that's the thing, is paradise is always around us, but our ability to see it shifts. And when people speak it into us, it changes the way we see the world and ourselves within it, and our potential within it. Right. The idea of somebody speaking into you, right? They're speaking your potential into you. And it's not that they're telling you who you're going to be. They're just showing you a possibility or some possibilities around who you could be. Right. Yeah. Steve Hardison did that for me. You had people do that for you. I've had other people do it too, not just him. Yeah. So Yeah. Can you speak to that a little more
Totally.
of the importance of that?
Yeah, it's my favorite thing in the world to talk about. So I could talk about
Yeah.
this for
Okay.
8 hours straight.
Well, good. Yeah. Let's
and,
do it.
We go in 8 hours. Is that
Here we go, guys. Yeah.
and funny enough, I don't know if you know this, Nicholas, but Steve's been a coach of mine now for about 6 months. So I did a year-long engagement with Steve.
Yeah.
And he just helped create, he and I together. So, like Devin Bandison is the go-to mindset coach of the NBA. Steve Chandler, the godfather of coaching. Steve, the ultimate coach. Hold on.
Chris Smith, the most allergic coach in the USA.
It's gonna be good.
I should have warned you. Whenever I start sneezing, people are usually like, "Bless you, bless you." Dude, shut up. Like, that's enough now. I'm like a 4, 5, 6 sneezer every time.
Hey, you got to get it out. That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Steve's like, dude, you're the professor of possibility. So that's my new,
I like that. Yeah.
So here's what's interesting about possibility. And I want to say something, and I really want people to really hear what I'm about to say.
Explain what you mean by hearing it.
So I want you to hear it like you've never heard it before. And I want you to really think deep about what this could actually mean. If as a possibility, not saying it's true, not saying I have the truth, but as a possibility, the thought is possibility exists, limitation is created.
You say that one more time.
Possibility exists, but limitation is created.
Say it again to my face.
Say it again. Yeah. Say it again to our face.
Say it again like you mean it this time. So what's interesting is, like right now, I'm looking at this beautiful forest, snow on the ground, trees. Like when I look out there in the universe and what God created and whatever, there's nothing but possibility. That's all there is. And there's nothing I can do to stop possibility from existing as like a universal truth or a law or principle. I can limit it for myself. Yeah, but I can't stop it. It's always there waiting for me. It's always there ready for us to tap into it. Limitation, though, I look out, I don't see any limitation. It doesn't exist until it's created, and it's always created here.
Oh, that's the show.
And so that idea
seriously, that right there, there's one of the secrets. That's it.
Yeah.
If you can wrap your head around that and do what you said right earlier about realizing that you're the author, you got to pick up the freaking pen. And that could be scary as crap because now you got to take responsibility and really place it where it belongs. Bless you. And bless you.
Bless you.
But that just right there, if people would take that, it would change their entire lives. Because everything will snowball from there. But we got to keep going. For sure.
No, let's dive into this because we don't have to go in any particular order with where we're at. The flow of this is natural. It's just moving right into possibility. We talk about uncertainty. Margaret Drabble talks about when nothing is sure, everything is possible.
Yeah, I love that.
Right. And there's another quote that says when you uncertainty allows you to see reality exactly as it is and then see what's possible. Right. Nassim Nicholas Taleb talks about that as empirical decision makers, it's our responsibility to step into the unknown. It's the highest and most urgent human pursuit, to step into the unknown with incomplete information. And when you talk about possibility as always existing, I can totally see that because it always exists, but our ability to see it doesn't exist. Our ability, to see into it. Well, go ahead. I see your mind spinning there. Yeah.
It's like, it's so possibility exists. And the way we view it at the Possibility Co is like, are you willing to step into possibility? And so we just rebranded to the Possibility Co, and the website's about to go live, and our new brand colors are really cool. And I found some, and I love sneaker culture. My boys have gotten me into sneaker culture and all the like new, retro Jordans and all that kind of stuff. And so I have some new, hold on. Someone keeps requesting a password. So I found some Jordans, some retro Nike Jordans that are the same colors as our brand colors. So I bought a pair for all of my team, and we buy a pair for our clients. And we tell them, like, look, this is to remind you to literally step into possibility because it's always there. When you put these shoes on, you're stepping into possibility. The other thing is people ask us, why did you spell possibility PSBLTY? Well, one, PSBLTY.com was a cool domain that was available that you couldn't get possibility spelled out.com. Possibility is hard to spell, but more than anything, the reason we don't spell out possibility is because you have to have eyes to see it. It's there wrapped up in PSBLTY. You have to be looking for it to see it. And like, that's the craziest thing is if you look for possibility, you'll step into it. If you look for limitation, you'll create it. You can't find limitation because it doesn't exist. You'll create it by looking for it. If you look for possibility. So some of this is just literally training our brains to stop looking for limitation. And most people don't think they're doing this, but most people are fighting harder for their limitations than their possibilities. They're taking a stronger stand.
We do, right?
What's possible.
We argue our limitations and
Totally.
we'll fight to the death for them. We'll tell people, now you're wrong. You're seeing it wrong because this is who I am. And how important is that? So going back to when we started this, we talked about who you thought you were, and you had this awakening moment and your marriage was falling apart. And this person speaks possibility into you. And then all of a sudden you're able to start putting pen to paper in a new way. And it came back to who you thought you were because somebody spoke possibility into you. It changed who you thought you were.
Totally.
And that being right there is who decided to put pen to paper in your life. That person became the creator of that life, because I think that's where a lot of this really begins is we don't do that because we don't think that's who we are.
Yep.
We think we're something else. So we write that into the world and that's what shows up and we get confirmation. We're like, see, I told you I was right.
Yep.
Right.
Totally. And that's who I like 14 years ago. The only thing I focused on, and this is a really interesting thing we tell a lot of people is 14 years ago, every day I woke up focused on what wasn't working in my life, what I didn't like about my life, what I didn't want in my life, and what I didn't have. And then I was shocked that that was my life. It's like, well, of course that would be your life because that's all you're looking for is what isn't working, what you don't like, what you don't have, and what you don't want.
Of
so
course,
right? More of it.
Yeah.
And when I shifted to like, well, what if I start looking for what is working in my life, what I do have, what I do want, what I do like, I'll find more of that. But it started with Gordon speaking possibility into me. And so I want to talk about that because, so the word inspire, a lot of people don't know that the word inspire actually comes from a Latin word inspirare.
Nick probably knows. He loves
it. But I'll leave it alone. I won't steal
you
the
said
thunder.
brain. You said brain, and now you're going to talk etymology of words, and his mind's going to explode. I think
love
it.
Yeah, go with it. I want to hear.
Inspirare, inspiration. So inspirare, in means into, and spirare means breathe. So to inspire literally translate to breathe into. So when we speak possibility into people, we're literally like, and like we're filling them up with possibility. Here's what's so amazing about human beings is there's a single human being left to themselves that can see what's actually possible. They can just see what they think is possible. And even if they're super enlightened in pursuing possibility, there's still more that's possible than what they can see. So that became this really interesting thought to me is,
wait, don't move on so fast. Like, hang on to that. Yeah.
What about Bashar?
Okay. We can't speak without breathing. There's
right.
one, right? Becky Robbins talks about, she was on the TUB event, the masterclass, and she said, I don't set goals, and here she set up that program with Tony Robbins and helped launch just a worldwide movement. And she's like, I don't do goals. And it's like, what in the world do you mean you don't do goals? Like, why wouldn't you do goals? And she says, because it's too limiting, because there's so much more possible for me outside of these goals that my goals become limiting by the nature of speaking them. And so she opens up to the idea that there's more for her in the universe. And so there's a couple of things there. We can't speak without breathing. We're always speaking into our own world and into other people's worlds. And then also what we're speaking into the world is usually from the space of limitation.
Yep.
And it's way below our potential.
Totally. And language is the fundamental element of creation. There's never been anything created in the world without language. Ever. And every time you speak, it creates. It can't not. If people just understood that, like, wow, every time I speak, it creates. Like every time I'm around my little kid and I tell someone, like someone tries to talk to one of my kids and I go, oh, she's shy.
You just spoke her into that.
To be shy. Like it's just like everywhere, right? Everywhere all the time. And so what's fascinating though is, how do I, as a human being, if I think this is possible, but this is what's actually possible, how do I access it? That started becoming this fascinating thing. Like, how do I tap into what's actually possible beyond what I can see as possible? And it started dawning on me, it's always through another person. It's always through another person who's committed enough to you and loves you enough to say, hey, Ryan, hey, Nick, I know you think this is possible, but dude, this is what, and then you see it. And it's like, whoa, like you just opened up a whole new world of possibility for me.
It's weird.
Just by
I've
speaking.
seen that in the Giants book.
Yeah.
Weird.
And it's like, but it's like, so like go back to that marriage counselor 14 years ago. I'm sitting there in Gordon Gunnell's office. What if he doesn't speak possibility to me that day? What if he's having an off day, or just decides to kind of do the run of the mill, and he just goes like, oh, here's my counseling session. Here's, you can buy this many sessions for this much money, and you can do this and this. But it's no, like the guy was really with me in a way that he had no place to get but to serve me. He wasn't trying to sell me anything. He was listening to my story, told his story. And then, as simple as it sounds, after my wife had told her story, I told mine, Gordon had told his, he leaned back in his chair and he kind of smiled at us and he's like, man, I want you guys to know, I believe in you guys. I know you guys are at a rough spot. Man, I really believe you guys could create something amazing together. I really do. I think you have a marriage worth fighting for. And if it was me, man, I'd fight for it. That was it. Because what's interesting, in all of the struggling, my wife and I had been separated. Not one person, this is nothing against them. We got great advice, but not one person spoke possibility into us. No one ever took me aside and goes, hey, dude, man, I think there's something here. Like, no one breathed life. And when Gordon did, it immediately shot up a little bit of like, wait, what? I mean, I still was in a really low spot, but there was this glimmer of possibilities. Dude, I hung on to that. And literally that one conversation, 30 seconds of him. And I've now tested this with audiences all over the world, tens of thousands of people, where I'll be giving this talk about possibility. And then I'll ask them, I'll say, okay, I want you to think of someone who's done that for you. Right. So I talk about that. People help us see what's possible. Could be a coach, parent, mentor, spouse, colleagues, sibling, someone who at some point in time in your life spoke some possibility into you. And had you seen more that was possible than you would have ever seen. What's always amazing to me, everyone in the audience usually has someone, and it's never anything like earth shattering. Like recently, a guy goes, I got one. I was speaking at an event in Chicago. He goes, yeah, man, I was a freshman in my high school on the wrestling team. I'd never wrestled before, but I was a talented, kind of wiry, muscly kid. So they had made, talked me into wrestling, went to a tournament, lost every match, was super discouraged, about to burst into tears, little freshman, about to quit wrestling. Head wrestling coach comes, puts his arm around me, goes, hey, man, I know you've lost every match, but dude, you're amazing. You could be one of the best wrestlers that's ever wrestled this high school. And then walks off the mat. He goes, that conversation kept me in wrestling. I became a 3-time Division I All-American wrestler and national champ. He goes, but it's like, that's every story. It's like, I recently met a guy who, has a company that's probably worth $30 million. He was in the audience. I asked this. He goes, oh yeah, man. I started a business when I was 23 years old. Everyone told me I was crazy. Went to lunch with one of my mentors. We'd had lunch, and it was like the lunch was over. We were walking to our separate cars. He goes, oh, hey, by the way, Matt. Runs back over and he goes, hey, dude, you know that business you're talking about at lunch? Matt's like, yeah. He's like, dude, you could totally do it. I'd go for it. And then walks back to his car. Matt goes, that one, hey, dude, you could totally do it. I'd go for it. That was the result of a $20 million company. So it's like, here's what we underestimate. We underestimate the power of speaking a little bit of possibility into people, our spouses, our children, our teams. And it's sad that we live in a world today where most people, you just have to realize the majority of people don't have anyone on a consistent basis breathing life into them and speaking possibility to them. And just a little bit of that goes a long way. And so we're really at the Possibility Company, that's what we're about, is like teaching organizations, teaching entrepreneurs how to see what's actually possible, how to live into it, and how to breathe possibility into their people.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It really, the power of the word, the power of speaking, the whole community that we are seeing today, the giants and the smalls, the tribe of giants, this all came about from one man speaking into me back in 2009, right? I couldn't see it. And so he takes time, Steve Hardison takes time out of his day to call me. I'm at the low of lows. I'm feeling pretty defeated in that parking lot of a welfare center. And he speaks into me possibility. And I never forgot it. right? And that became the foundation for everything that we see today. It wouldn't be here without that being spoken into me. Now, there were others as well along the way that continued to speak that possibility in, right? This he was foundational, and then there were others, and there were people before him too that spoke possibility. Even him and I meeting became a possibility from Julie Blake, who said, "You got to meet this guy, Steve Hardison." And so she says, "I see so much more in you. I want you to meet him." And then he became foundational for everything. Steve Chandler was another one. It's just amazing the power of words, even in relationship. We create our relationships every day. We're the ones that decide how they're going to go. We're the ones that decide who we are within them. So we even speak ourselves into existence in those relationships. We speak ourselves into who we think we are in our business partnerships, right? And then when we share that with the other people, now we're speaking it into them, right?
And another thing that's interesting about that, Nicholas, is I also have realized more and more, like, look, I want as many people selfishly. I want as many people out there in the world speaking possibility into me as they're willing to. And I'm trying to speak as much possibility into people as I can. And I've also realized none of us have to wait for someone to speak possibility into us, because we can also speak it into ourselves. We can fill ourselves with possibility. And so one of the signature outcomes of coaching with Steve Hardison, as some of you may know from reading The Ultimate Coach, is the creation of your document. Well, I've created the document. I've helped my wife create a document. I helped each of my 5 children create a document. And the way we talk about our documents is it's our personal possibility, like, generator. Like, I can speak possibility into myself through my document. And granted, I want it from other people too, but that was a new kind of revelation I had, is like, oh, I can help myself see more as possible than what, because I also believe that in all of us, we have 2 selves. We have our lower self, or our ego, and we have our higher self, or our sacred self. And it's like, which one are we allowing to control the narrative? And unfortunately, most people listen to themselves and their lower self way too much, instead of speaking to themselves through their higher self. And so one of the things that I'm really fascinated with lately, in teaching kids especially, is what if we stopped listening to ourselves as much and started talking to ourselves more? Most people, all they do is sit around all day long without realizing it and listen to themselves. And they listen to the voice of limitation, which is their lower self, their ego, which says things like, "You're not enough. You don't matter. You won't be able to do that. Who do you think you are to..."
Holy crap. These are all the questions out of the book, The Giants and the Smalls. Like, these are all the questions. Like, who are you to do giant things? Who are you to do greatness?
Yeah.
You know, like, that's how we talk to ourselves.
And we don't even realize,
condition too. Like, you have an experience. Well, then you start speaking that insight internally. And so you start looking for, just like you said, you start looking for, oh, see, there it is. There's a reason why I'm not that.
Have you guys ever, I don't know if you've ever, like, our first marriage, or my first marriage, when we were first married.
I remember when we were first married. Yep.
Yeah. So when I was first married, we moved into this apartment complex, and we're like, why is this apartment such a good deal? Like, it seems like, compared to other places. Well, our first night, we didn't realize how close it was to this busy road, and cars just fly. It's super loud. And I'm like, I'll never sleep, for the next 6 months. Well, by the third night, I couldn't even hear the cars anymore. And people have said this, like, that live right next to a train track. So you just stop hearing it. That's the danger of that voice of limitation. It's talked to us for so long and told us things we don't even hear. We don't even recognize it's there anymore.
Quiets out the higher self.
And so we listen to ourselves all day long, and we really think it's like, well, it's just who I am. And what I'm fascinated with is, what if we could start teaching people, especially young kids, to start how to talk to themselves and what to say? And look, if you're not talking to yourself, you're listening to yourself. And I promise you, if you're listening to yourself, you're likely listening to the voice of limitation, and you're likely listening to your lower self. So you speak to yourself through the voice of possibility more than you listen to yourself through the voice of limitation. And you just tell yourself the truth of who you are and who you want to be. And it's like miraculous, like what possibilities you can start to tap into. And you have to be consistent with it, because it's not like the voice of limitation goes on vacation. Like, it's going to try to talk to you all the time. You can quiet it and you can, like, lessen it. But literally 14 years ago, when I was at the lowest point in my life, I didn't know this, but all I did was sit around and listen to myself all day, every day. And as a result, I was hopeless. And then I started filling myself up. Other people started, but that's why like I'm so for this idea of like, yeah, it's okay to talk to yourself, and we should teach people how to talk to themselves. Because if you're not talking to yourself, like Fiona just said, you're listening to yourself. And if you're listening to yourself, you actually don't control that narrative. Yeah, that's what's crazy. That's what I finally realized. Well, no, I still control the narrative because I'm listening to me. These are my thoughts. It's like, no, you're being thought by your thoughts. That's the voice of limitation. You're not in control of that narrative. The only narrative that you can ever be in control of is the one that you are consciously speaking. That makes sense, right?
Right. Yes. Like I think of the brain, the way the brain works. Most of our thoughts are automated. Most of our behaviors are automated. And if you think you are something that's limiting and that's what's running, then 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts a day, 400 thoughts a minute are just running through saying you're limited, 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 and you're listening to it. Right. But when you start to speak it, now it shifts that whole narrative. Now you're starting to program in the new automations, right? Eventually that becomes automated and that's what you're also listening to, but you had to speak it in initially. And I think most of us are spoken into existence. Who we think we are is who we were conditioned to be by others, by society, family, culture. And it's no fault of theirs. They didn't know what they were doing. They were just doing what they were taught to do. But it's up to us to really interrupt that and be aware of it. And sometimes it takes a person like what you talked about, getting in there and saying, hey, I think there's some possibility here for your family. I think there's some possibility for you. The other thing is that your wife heard the same thing, right?
Totally.
So you both heard that and you both acted on it. And then that's what created the possibility, right? Is
Totally.
that you both worked on it. You both spoke it into existence together. And so I love this, this concept of like you are either listening because of your automations or you're speaking, right?
Yeah.
And
you're either listening because of your automations or you're speaking maybe because of your truth. Because it's like, I promise, like what you're listening to yourself, what you're listening to from yourself, it's not who you are. It's who you believe you are. It's who society's told you are. That's why, like now that my kids have their own documents, I try on a daily basis and sometimes I forget. But at night when I tuck them in, I'll be like, Ivy, who are you? And she just riffs. She goes into her, hey, Trip, who are you?
That's
Indy,
awesome.
who are you? Because I want them to, and it's not about, I don't need you to tell me who you are. Yeah, you're telling me and you think you're telling me, but they're really telling themselves who they are. Yeah. I'm trying to teach them at a young age, control the narrative because you can. You can control the narrative up here. You really can.
And that's instilled. When you teach them at a young age, that's instilled. So mine have become teenagers. They don't listen that way as much right now. And but I still see it. You know, these things were instilled.
But it's in there because Nick does that.
In there. It's in there. And even though they're going through a phase of their own learning right now, it's still instilled. Like they have that as an automation, as a voice in their head. And I'm thankful for that because it does start young. It starts with telling them, look, you're great. You're amazing. If we're not going to tell them, who's going to tell them? They're not going to tell themselves that, right? Yeah. Society definitely isn't going to tell them that for the most part. So
yeah, we have an epidemic right now, I think, amongst self-worth amongst young people at a proportion that I don't think any of us, even as parents, like understand. Like I recently went and spoke to a high school volleyball team just because they asked like, hey, we heard that you are all about possibility. Can you come speak some possibility into our 45-ish girls between freshmen, JV, and seniors, our varsity? And I could tell that I was able to be with them in a way where they like really started opening up and really trusted me pretty quickly. And I just asked them, I said, okay, how many of you consciously say one nice thing to yourself about yourself on a daily basis? 45 girls, not one hand goes up. How many of you on a daily basis find yourself saying things to yourself that are unkind, really hurtful, probably not true? And like, if people heard you say it out loud, would be shocked. All 45
I just
hands
put my
go.
head down because there's days when you said that, it hit me. I'm like, oh, I don't do it. And in that moment, I judged myself too, though. And like, I was like, why don't you do that? And like, you should be doing this. And you didn't say one kind thing to myself that day. Like,
I got to ask you around this, you know, the idea of judgment, right? We're our most critical judge, always will be. If there is a judgment after this life, then we'll be the ones doing it. And I don't want to be judged by me because that's going to be harsh, right? but this idea of speaking possibilities. So you have your ego self, right? Which is very judgmental. And then you have your higher self, which is more understanding, more compassionate about who you've been. More, it knows you better than anybody, and can also love you unconditionally. And my question for you is there a spiritual aspect that's beyond both of those for you in your world? Do you have any views or beliefs around that you would be open to sharing?
Totally. I'm glad you asked. Yeah, 100%. So I actually believe that this lower self, or I refer to it as the voice of limitation, it competes, compares, and separates. So it's always looking to compete with someone. It's always looking to compare to someone. And it's always looking to separate. It's like separate you from yourself, from God.
That hurtful Jiminy Cricket.
Totally. And then
I hate you.
Yeah. You're terrible. You should be with them.
And it's not who we are. Again, like limitation doesn't exist. It's just it's been a creation. It's been created through all kinds of things, hard things, well-intended parents, sometimes not well-intended. It's like, but then there's this higher self, or this voice of possibility, that I actually believe is directly tied to the mind of God, the Christ consciousness, the universal consciousness of one. That really is who we are. It's not like it's a created thing. It's who we've always been. It's just learning to like remember that. We just had a question, by the way, that only was up for a second. I lost it.
Sorry.
That comparison versus judgment, right? And I think comparison is a form of judgment, personally. But
I think, Hugh, this is just my opinion, but like I think we are judging ourselves negatively and comparing ourselves negatively, and they're kind of one and the same, right? And so for me, Nicholas, the way the spiritual component of this is, the more I can tap into the truth of who I am and that voice of possibility, I don't even view it as like, oh, this is who I could become. It's like, no, it's who you already are. It's just remembering who you've always been and who you are, right? And I believe that when we're tapped into that, like I'm reading this really amazing book right now called The Way of Mastery, which is all about like Christ-centered consciousness. And it's not religious, it's more spiritual. But for me, it's like, man, when I tap into that higher self, I'm tapping into a consciousness that's way bigger than me. I'm tapping into a consciousness that has existed for eternity. And I believe that when I tap into my higher self and the voice of possibility, I'm tapping into infinite intelligence and wisdom that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's a freedom that exists there. So there's a bondage that I think all of us could associate with in some way. You feel a little bit imprisoned by your thoughts and the lower self. And then there's this freedom of like unconditional love, infinite possibility, and unlimited freedom that exists in our higher self. But it's not like it's a place to get to. It's like we already are it.
We just have to tap into we're a part of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I've been playing this. I'm going to pull in abundance here. I've been playing with AI. I love the idea of AI. It's a microscopic version of the universe. Like there's all this information plugged into it. It's abundant. It's full of anything you could imagine. The only limitations come in your imaginings, where Einstein says that your imagination is more important than your knowledge. Now it's up to us to determine what we're going to create in that possibility. But that possibility is a gift, right? It's already built out. All you have to do is tap into it. And it's really limited by what you can speak into it. So to me, it's this micro version of this universe that was created, because I'm just in the universe. I didn't create it. I didn't have to put it together. I don't even have to fully understand it. I just get to play with it. Right. And the only limitation comes in my speaking to it.
Yep.
But all the resources are here. All the materials are here, the opportunities, the people, everything that I could ever need. The same rocket ships that we see today were here in the time of the Neanderthals, right? It never wasn't here. It already existed, but they didn't have the imaginings to be able to put it together the way that we have. And even us, we're limited by what we can see. And the stuff that's going to be here in the future is already here. We just haven't imagined it yet. So when you're talking about possibility, we're getting to play in this universe that was created that we don't fully understand. You look at the quantum world and you're like, holy crap, that's messy. I'm so glad I don't have to understand that to use it, because that would throw me off. Right.
Yeah.
But it's abundant. Possibility is unlimited. The resources are unlimited.
Yeah.
And so it all comes back to us. Like we were thrown into this world where we can play with it. So it comes back to us. I'd love to hear your views around this as you hear that.
So some of the branding we've actually played with possibility, PSBLTY. You know how when you go to like an optometrist and they have the chart where it's like, can you see this letter? You see this, and it gets smaller.
Yep.
Well, we played around with some branding that people will be seeing pretty soon, where the P is at the highest, SBLTY. So we kind of take possibility and break it into an optometry chart again, because you have to have eyes to see it. It's there. It's not like I have to. Here's an interesting thought. You never have to create possibility. It already exists. You just got to tap into it. And you can't tap into limitation because it doesn't exist. You create it. You can't create possibility, but you can create limitation. You can't tap into limitation, but you can tap into possibility, because limitation isn't there. There's nothing to tap into.
Okay.
So it's like,
we had a guest on. I gotta spin it, but hang on to this. Okay. We had a guest on, and she said that, did Einstein discover relativity? Or in the thinking about relativity, did he create relativity so that he could discover it? Right? Like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Right.
Right.
And that's pure possibility. Is his imagining of relativity in possibility could have created relativity for it to be discovered.
Totally.
Right.
So it's like, but it's like, look, there's a lot of the clients that I have that start experiencing miracles, not because they're like, oh, I created these miracles. It's like, oh, I just finally have eyes to see. Like, I'm looking for, like, you know, the fastest way to create miracles is start looking for them, because they're already there. It's like, you'll notice things and you'll see things that you never saw that were always there. Like last night, I got a text message from a new, client who was like, man, I went to the new Wonka, which by the way is a super, I don't know if you've seen the new Wonka with your kids.
The Wonkas,
unreal, like so much different than the other Wonkas, but like filled with possibility. Like the whole thing is all about possibility, and just a beautiful story. My two older boys were like, I don't want to go see the new Willy Wonka. It's going to be weird like the other ones and psychedelic. And they got out and they're like, that was the best Wonka of all of them. I'm like, okay, remember there's things I tell you guys, you're teenagers, and there's things I tell you you're going to like, and then you tell me you don't. Like, this is one of them, But he's like, dude, I leave Wonka, and his name, Yeshua really means a lot to him because of his name. So the term, the name Yeshua in the Bible, which means the deliverer. So he's like, we get out of Wonka, and he goes, prior to coaching with you, I'd have just said, oh, cool movie. But now that I'm like, I have eyes to see and I'm looking for possibility, I see all kinds of things in Wonka that gave me ideas of who I want to be heading into 2024. Then we take my daughters out for some ice cream. We're walking by this little shop, and I just stop and look in this shop window, and I see a book, and guess what the title of the book is? Yeshua. So it's like, I just start seeing all these like weird, I go, yeah, it's actually not that weird. It's everywhere. But you have to have eyes to see it. And if you're so consumed with looking for and fighting for limitation, it's not that the possibilities aren't there. You just have no capacity or energy to even look for it or see it. And it can be right in front of you. And again, it's just this like, do I have eyes to see it? And how do I start to have eyes to see it? It's all in my speaking. It always comes back to language. Because look, here's something that's really interesting. Sometimes people have been living in limitation for so long, like I was 14 years ago.
Right.
That to then start saying, oh, hey, Chris, start thinking about possibility and start talking to yourself. It's like, it seems like the cognitive dissonance of the two seems so big, if that makes sense. Like, I can't go from like, I'm this horrible loser, and you expect me now to say like, I've believed I'm a horrible loser for every day for 6 months, and now you want me to start saying like, I'm a powerful creator? I can't even like wrap my mind around that. And there's a scripture that gave me a lot of hope one time around this idea of belief and language and speaking, because I used to always have this mindset around belief of like, well, either you believe or you don't. So when someone's like, well, just believe, it's like, but I don't believe. So it felt hopeless. Like either in certain things I have a belief or I don't. I have faith or I don't. And then I read this line one time that said, even if you can no more than desire to believe.
Oof.
I was like,
holy crap. Yes.
What's that? I was like, I went and read that again. Even if you can no more than desire to believe. I was like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that just even wanting to believe is still faith? Wanting to believe? So I could actually be at a place of complete hopelessness. I don't believe at all, but at least want to, and that's still belief and faith. And I was like, dude, I can do that.
Okay, I got to hang here for a minute. The belief, the word is the Germanic word is to hold dear, glauben, right? In the Bible, it used to say trust. to trust, which that word trust means a confident expectation. And so having this desire to even have a confident expectation of something is enough. And this is the beauty of it, is that when I think of faith, trust, hope, these are all words that are based in fear to me, or uncertainty. They're words that, because if you know, you just know, and you don't have a need for faith, hope, or trust. Like, you just know. And for many of us, it's like we don't know, and we're really uncertain, and we have a lot of fear going on. So we need these tools like faith, hope, and trust to even get there. And a lot of times we don't even have any of those. We need a desire for those to even move to. It's like everything in scale is prepared and available to you so that you can go wherever you're at. And I think of that scripture that says, help my unbelief. You know, the guy that's like, do you think I can heal her? Yeah. Help my unbelief. I believe, but you know, I totally don't. Right.
Well, and even that scripture, help my unbelief. So he brings his child, right, to Jesus.
Yeah.
Asks Jesus to heal his child. And Jesus goes, do you believe? What I love about the story is the guy fights for possibility and then reveals his limitation. He doesn't say, because what most of us would do is go, well, no, man, I got a lot of unbelief. And like we would go to limitation and then say, but I still kind of believe. The guy goes, I believe, help my unbelief. It's like a really courageous thing. It's like, he's like, yeah, I believe, and I still have some like limitations. And Jesus goes, that's all I need. I'll work with that. Like, I think sometimes we think that like, no, you have to have this. It's like the guy just goes like, I want to believe. Like, and so anyways, I just want to offer to someone, if you're listening, if you really are living in limitation, and this idea of starting to speak to yourself seems, because I had a woman recently who was like, I think my daughters deserve more from a mom than me. So we created this powerful declaration for her to start speaking possibility into herself of how amazing she is as a mom. She goes, Chris, I don't believe it though. And I go, do you want to believe it? And she goes, yes. And I go, start with that. And she goes, I can start with that. I can say it every day to myself, wanting to. And I go, and I promise you, if you keep wanting to and keep saying it, it'll go from I want to, and then it'll kind of progress into like, maybe I'm starting to, then it'll go to like, I think I am. You know, it doesn't just jump right to, but if you'll continue watering that little seed and not just throw it away, it's like, well, I don't believe. It's like, dude, that was one of the things that saved my marriage 14 years ago. I can legitimately look my wife and my kids in the eye and say, 14 years ago, I had zero hope in our marriage, had zero faith that our marriage would work, but I wanted to believe it. And I just hung on to that. And then possibility can sometimes start there. It doesn't have to be this grand. You can be in a place of complete hopelessness, but start tapping into possibility by just wanting to believe in yourself, wanting to believe in something.
And then you'll start seeing it. It'll start showing up because that's what you're focusing on.
Yeah.
I think of the I am statements are sometimes too much of a stretch for people. They're like, but I'm not that, right? But the bridge words, these bridge statements, these bridge possibilities of I am becoming, or even before that, I would like to become, right?
Yeah.
And even words, you know, words have so much power. The word want means to be without, you know, and even speaking it, you can tell what a person doesn't have or does have in their life by what they want and don't want, right?
Totally.
You have it or you don't have it. And even the desire, that word desire to give birth to or inseminate in a way, right? This dream or vision, this possibility, that desire is the seed, right?
Yeah. I missed that for the longest time. I thought like, oh, you just have to have faith. You just have to have belief. You have to, and if you don't have it, you're kind of screwed. And it was like, no, you can just want to have it. It can start with desire. And I was like, dude, that gives me hope, because I could always want to, no matter how bad my life gets in any area, I can always want to.
Yeah. Yeah. But that desire, that's the seed, right? And then once you plant that seed, then it's cultivating, which to me is an act of faith and trust, because if you're acting on it, you're trusting that it's going to create something. You have this confident expectation that your efforts are going to pay off somewhere. And then you cultivate it and you cultivate it and cultivate it. And who was it on our show? Oh man, they said you can't rush spring. And I'm like, holy crap. Right. I'm like, you can plant the seed.
Now I got to go watch like 260 episodes to find that.
Yeah, there are so many. I mean, I'm going through plugging into possibility, this member site that we're building out. And it's like, these are all desires. These are all seeds that we've cultivated. And
Yeah.
you can't rush spring, right? You've got to water it. You've got to weed it. You've got to let it go through its germination process. You've got to listen to it and have it tell you what the creation needs so that you can give it that, right? And you can't rush spring. And
Yeah,
so we're
I love
not
that.
responsible for the timing. We're responsible for the activity, the cultivating, and the planting of the seeds, right?
How many people at home just went, like that takes so much pressure off. Like we judge ourselves hard.
Yeah.
You're used to speaking this way to yourself internally, and having this when you have that mind shift or that awakening. There's two things, at least for me, that came up when this happened for me. One was the picking up the pen it was hard because there was like a lot of now there's all this responsibility too. And oh my gosh, I did this to myself almost in a degree. So then I was doing the same thing that I was, stuck in patterning. But then when I learned that that principle, Chris, that you're talking about, the weight that's also lifted off. All I could see too in those moments was just the desire, the hope, the possibility wasn't like I didn't see it as clear as other people. And having other people that were in my corner that could speak possibility and say, okay, you are where you are, but this is how I see you. This is what I can see for you or with you. Let's start there. You just have a hope and a desire. We know you want something different. Let's do it.
It's
And
beautiful,
till
man.
I could start doing it for, more for myself, it's a practice. It's going to take some time, some energy, some focus, some discipline, some commitment. Those things can come. Just build on it little bit, little bit, little bit. And it's mountains without tops, as Steve Hardison says it. And so, dude,
Totally.
this whole conversation, like we started with the secret or one secret. Like you are like dropping. I mean, these things. This is life changing. This is transformative. This stuff uh, can save lives. This can save marriages. This can change somebody from feeling hopeless, a kid that just kind of just gets pushed around and moves through life wherever life takes him to I love you too, Fiona, to making a massive difference in the world. An absolute massive difference, or just to their family or their friends, and those people then can also start believing. So, dude, I'm just sitting here. There's so much emotion inside of me, so much love right now for you as a human for doing this work and for helping other people see the possibility in who they are. Uh, and I have so much gratitude for people like Fiona, Hugh, Carrie. Oh my gosh, Dominic, Dom hopped on and spoke right as we were speaking about speaking into other people. Dom hopped on and spoken into us.
Yeah.
We need it too. We're not us as giants just because we hop on here and preach it doesn't mean that we don't need it and that we're not doing our work too. So anyway, I'm sorry for bawling. That's kind of what I do on the show. Is I'm here for the good
Beautiful,
looks and
man.
for the crying. So I love
No,
you, man.
dude.
Thank you so much.
Love you too, brother. Like, and you said some things that really. So I just want to comment on a couple things you said. They're really beautiful. Going back to this idea of like you can't rush spring and this pressure sometimes. My 16-year-old Tate, one of his declarations in his document is, "I have eternity to figure my life out."
Oof. Huh.
Because when about a year and a half ago, he just started feeling this pressure of like at 15 or 14 and a half, like, oh, I got it. And we all feel that at times. Of like, well, I should be further ahead. And like, well, I don't know what I want to do. And all this stuff. And I just, we just talked and he was like, yeah, that doesn't serve me. That's a limitation, And so it's like, I have eternity to figure my life out. And that also doesn't mean like, I'm not going to do anything. It's like, no, I'm actively pursuing
Yeah.
possibility. And I have eternity to figure life out. The other thing is, we talk about mountain with no top, right? Steve talks about that. We've now, for what it's worth, all the users who are familiar with that, we've now named that Possibility Mountain. The mountain with no top that we all talk about. It's Possibility Mountain. So come get on Possibility Mountain, because the further up you go, the more possibility you experience for yourself and for others, the more freedom there is. And the last thing I'll say, Ryan, to the idea of the saving lives, sometimes I share this, sometimes I don't. I don't have anything around not sharing it. It's just if it occurs to me, and I wasn't going to until you said that. But, I'm the youngest of 6 children, 3 boys, 3 girls. And unfortunately, both of my brothers have passed away from suicide and addiction at a young age. So I've lost all my brothers. My oldest nephew has passed away to the same thing. I just had a sister about 2 months ago. She completed a 5-year prison sentence for addiction, and she's doing amazing, by the way. And her transformation is because while in prison over those 5 years, I finally was able to help her see that she matters and that she's worthy and her life has meaning and purpose. And it took 5 years of prison for her to fight harder for her possibilities and for her limitations and start creating a new narrative of who she is. And so part of what drives me to do this work and be the professor of possibility and shout possibility from the mountaintops of Possibility Mountain is, I really believe that, and I don't have like regrets around this or a lot of shame. And I sometimes wonder, like, man, if I was able to be with my brothers, if I could have taught my brothers how to speak if I could have taught my brothers how to talk to themselves more than they listen to themselves, because I don't actually think that the real cause of death in those situations is the thing you see on the surface, like the addiction. That's a symptom of something deeper. And often in our family, it's been that it's a lack of like believing you matter. It's a lack of believing like your life has meaning and purpose. It's this belief that like, well, I'm not enough. My life doesn't have meaning and purpose. I don't matter. So you stop seeing any kind of possibility, and then you start actually believing like, man, maybe my family would be better off without me here. Maybe the world would be better off. And those are never true. And I just think that if we could teach more people how to talk to themselves more than listen to themselves, and even if it starts with wanting to, even if it starts with like, I'm not there, I don't see it, and I want to, I think we could help a lot of people start to eventually get to this place of possibility and learn to love themselves and realize like, you know what, I do matter. I am enough. My life does have meaning and purpose. I'm here for a reason. And that drives me, man, big time, because of what's happened in my family.
Speak those reasons, even if they're not in your life currently. Like you said, they'll start showing up. You'll start seeing them. You be committed to that. Speak your document.
It's engineered for it, right?
Yeah.
Chris, tell us about get the clarity code. What is that? The gettheclaritycode.com.
Yeah, so gettheclaritycode.com is this idea of like, I think that one of the things that does get in the way of possibility is a lack of clarity, right? It's like and here's a lie that I think a lot of us, by the way, thank you, Carrie, for sharing that. And I'm sorry that happened to your sister. Thank you for, and look, like, that's the thing. That's the reason I feel so called to talk about that as well, is because when I talk about that on stages, there isn't, I think in the world we live in today, there isn't a single person that's not 1 degree, it either isn't directly or 1 degree removed from something or in their own family around that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's just, I think it's useful that we talk about it and we talk about what's driving that, I think a lie that we've bought into and that society kind of wants us to buy into is the lie of, I don't know. And what I mean by that is like, imagine the number of entrepreneurs even who've been like questioned, like someone said, well, what do you really want to do with your business? I don't know. Well, who do you really feel called to serve? Who's the people? I don't know. And I think we think that I don't know is like not that dangerous, but it's really dangerous because every time you say, I don't know, you reinforce the belief of like, well, I don't know. And it gets you off the hook kind of. So it's a convenient way of getting off the hook and getting off of like being like held accountable. And so I actually believe that clarity is the gateway to intentionality. Like if you want to start to become really intentional about some aspect of your life or your business, it all starts with clarity. Like you've got to have clarity. And look, clarity is hard work because it has you confront things. To get clear, you have to confront certain things. And one of my favorite quotes is by John Spence. You cannot change what you refuse to confront. So as long as I refuse to confront it, it's not changing. whether it's my marriage, my health, my business, my friendships. But if I have the courage to confront it, then it can start to change. And by confronting it, I can start to get clear. And I've never met someone that gets clear about something that doesn't become more intentional.
I want to, okay. So Einstein says imagination is more important than knowledge. The idea of clarity in hope theory, it says that when you're clear, you have hope for a brighter future. You know, you're the one that's going to create it and you'll overcome any obstacle to get there. Now, the paradox here is that you don't know the future yet. It's being created. So the clarity is really a form of imagination. I mean, is that accurate?
Totally. It's like, and it doesn't mean because I have clarity, it's like, oh, everything's figured out forever.
Yeah.
But at least having the clarity and some imagination of what to do next is a hell of a lot better than, well, I don't know. And we just become, to the point where, like, even when my wife goes, where do you want to go out to eat tonight? I refuse to now say, I used to say it all the time. I refuse to say, I don't know, even if I don't know, because I don't want to do that in any area of my life. Hey, Dad, what movie do you want to watch? I'm not going to say I don't know anymore, because I realized it's so dangerous, because it starts to build a belief in us of like, well, I don't know. And you know what's so funny when people say, I don't know? You ask one of your kids, hey, what do you want to do for college? I don't know. The silliness in that is like, well, you're the only one who can know, because it's your life. So it's actually not true. So a belief that I'm trying to help people start to wrap their minds around is, I already always know. And again, maybe it's just that's as a possibility. What if we started operating from I already always know what's next or what I want, even if I don't. And sometimes it's like, hey, I already always know what I want, and I need to dig a little bit to find it. But I'd rather operate from this place of like, it's inside of me. It's not out there. I'm infinite intelligence and wisdom, right? I'm tapped into the universal consciousness. How could I not know? I'm divine, potential. Like, so just operating from this, like, I know what's next for me. I know what I want in my marriage, my business, my health, my life. And when I start to get more clarity, I immediately start to take more action. I don't even have to be conscious of it. I just do. And I start to be more intentional. So this Get the Clarity Code, it's a little resource we put together that's powerful, that just starts to let people get some clarity around like what they want to be known for in life, maybe what their purpose is. And we just put together as a free resource just to help people start to kind of step into clarity, which to me is like, stepping into clarity is a massive step into possibility. Because like, I don't know is actually that's a voice of limitation. That's a limitation phrase. Like, I don't know. Think how limiting I don't know is. And that doesn't mean you have to have all the answers all the time. Like if someone legitimately asks me a question that I don't know, I'll say, hey, I don't know, but I'm going to go find that out. I will get clarity and I will figure it out.
It's a chance for imagining. It's a chance for learning. It's a chance for growth. The word intention, the word stretching is threaded through everything. It's in attention, tending to, intention, entertainment, between stretches, right? Entertainment. Yeah. Like all these words tie into our stretch to become something more. And when you get clarity, that imagining is even a stretching into the imaginings, a possibility. And then it comes to pen to paper. Now you intend, right? You intend toward it. So it's like all of these things were meant for our growth, for our giantness. I see it as when we get into that, I don't know, but now I'm going to play with the I don't knows and start creating possibility from the I don't knows, right?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Possibility-isms. Yeah. How can we take the I don't knows and turn them into possibility-isms? This idea of like, and I always think that the idea of intending. Another thing that's kind of fascinating to me around possibility is like, what game are we actually playing? And as far as I can tell, in its simplest form, there's 3 ways to play the game of life. I can play not to lose. And look, we've all had sports teams that drive us crazy because you can tell that they showed up that day playing not to lose. They didn't actually play to win. There's a difference between playing to win and playing not to lose. And look, I've played the game of life that way before. I've played my marriage that way. I've played my health that way. Like, I'm actually playing not to lose. And I'm kind of like, I'm always like looking out for the risks. I'm not willing to like step out onto the field. Like, I'm really timid. I'm really cautious. And then there's playing to play, which is I'm not playing not to lose. I'm kind of on the field. I'm kind of going through the motions. And then there's like, I'm playing to win. And what playing to win looks like is I've already decided to win before I've even started. Like, I intend to win. But doesn't mean that someone has to lose. It's like, there's a way where I can play to win. And by me winning, everyone wins because I'm the type of person. Yeah. And I believe that about most people. In fact, I know every single person that's been watching this and commenting on it, they're the type of people that when they win, When they start winning in life, a lot more people are going to start to win because they operate from love and abundance and
Yes. Yep.
possibility. And look, we need more of you to win. So my frustration a lot of times is you have a lot of purpose-driven, heart-centered, mission-focused, spiritual entrepreneurs who have the best of intentions, and they're some of the most beautiful human beings on the planet, that if they started winning, everyone around them would win. But oftentimes they play not to lose because they have this hang up around like, well, is it okay to make money? Is it okay to make a difference? And is it okay? It's just like, forget about all that. Like, you matter. You make a difference. Your life has meaning and purpose. You have a message that I promise if you took it out into the world with possibility, like this message of like, wake up the giants within. Like, your book is incredible. I've read it to my kids. Like, this is a movement that needs to win, because when it wins, everyone wins. Now, there's a lot of things out there in the world of business that aren't that way. There's a lot of things out there in the world of business that when it wins, people lose. There's winners and losers. I'm talking about the types of businesses and the types of people that when they win, everyone wins. It's not possible that anyone loses. So we need a lot more of you to start freaking play to win. Stop playing not to lose. Stop playing to play. Stop.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
amazing. The timing, right? There we are.
You
Yeah.
froze for just a second, but it was a beautiful second. You were frozen in a beautiful way.
Chris, as we wrap up here, is there a question you wish you had been asked in the show today, or that you wish somebody would ask you that you'd love to answer?
Oh man, what a great question about a question. I guess not the one that comes to mind, like that I wished, but as you're saying it, it's like, I think a fun question to ask is like, what would be your final words?
Yeah.
Like, as you're leaving planet Earth.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. What would they be?
Yeah. Like I hope that on my dying bed, I'm lucid enough and like still with it enough to whisper in my, like, as I'm fading out, I'm just going to whisper possibility and freedom.
I just got the chills, man, as you said that, because you're doing that already. And then that's the one thing that you want to continue doing is breathing possibility into people.
Yeah. It's like, that's what I hope.
As
I
you're
hope
passing away.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Because that's just all I want. Like, I think that's all. I think that's all human beings want, is to really be free to be their most bold, authentic selves, free from the guilt and shame of their past, free to just be their way to freedom is the path. Like, the path of possibility is the pathway to freedom. And it's just like, possibility and freedom is what I want to talk about for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that connection there. And man, Ryan, any final thoughts from you today?
Bawled. We've laughed, we've cried, we've done all the things, but I took so many notes. I couldn't scribble fast enough, and it's hard to like stop and like look down and write all my notes, but as I'm going. But I cannot wait to put this show on repeat, and also to spend more time with Chris Smith. And is this your first introduction to Chris? This is my first deep introduction to Chris. I followed you on Facebook for quite a while, and I see the work that you're doing. I see the lives you're changing and the impact that you're having, and speaking that into other people. And as you're doing that in a not in a selfish way, but you are also benefiting as you're speaking into others. You're also speaking into yourself, and it's working. This secret. We don't want it to be a secret. It needs to be taught. It needs to be shared. It needs to be just shouted from the rooftops or whispered on your deathbed. And so, for those of you who are watching, get around Chris Smith. Find him, watch his stuff, support him, because in return, there'll be others that'll do the same for you as well. Go pass on this legacy. Go help him to get his deathbed wish, which is to speak life and possibility into everybody. And what a blessing, man, to have you today. So thank you so much for being on our show. We love you. We appreciate you, and thank you. Please tell your family thank you for spending the time, because that is the most valuable thing that we have, and we so appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you,
That's
man.
awesome.
Yeah, it's totally been an honor. Yeah.
Well, for everybody that's watching, definitely we got a game for you, which is called my12journeys.com. So go be a part of it. If you're not a member of the Tribe of Giants, join that on Facebook. That's our global community, phenomenal community. The My 12 Journeys is an extension of that, and it's a way to get specialized resources for your journey at 33 cents a day. You can't beat it. So go join that. My 12 Journeys. You'll see some other possibilities in there as well. And do that. Take this message, like what Ryan was saying, put it on repeat, share it with somebody you know in your life that could use this message in their world, and share it with them so that they can see what's possible for them. I feel like I'm blocking your face there, Chris. We're like throwing you up under the logo.
No worries.
And for you that watch, we're just so grateful for you, because none of this is possible without you. Like, you are why we show up every Sunday to do these shows. You are why we make the effort to get new guests every Sunday. You are the reason that we want to find topics that serve you. And so it would be nothing without you. Like, we get to speak into you every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Mountain time, by the way. That might not be South African time. Might be a little different. But we get to speak into you, your possibility, your potential, and we get to bring people on that show you through their own lives what you could do, right? And what you're created to do. And so we hope you go back through our episodes. We have over 250 episodes on YouTube with people just like Chris that are sharing their journeys and their stories, that have been through challenges that you can only imagine. People who've been through things that are similar to, worse than anything you've experienced, that show you hope and possibility and clarity. And so go check those out, share them. Remember, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're right on time. You're doing what you need to be doing. And just keep stepping, start climbing Possibility Mountain. I kept picturing Candyland, the game, and the professor of possibility as like leading people through this game, and I just see that as climb the mountain and never reach the top. So we love you. Thank you for being a part of our show. Go make it a giant day, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Love you too.